Hello everyone, welcome to my political channel. Today is August 22nd, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about my theory about Donald Trump not wanting to win the presidential election. I think Donald Trump is actively sabotaging his own campaign while helping Joe Biden and Kamala Harris win their campaign. So let's take a listen to Saga and Jetty, and he'll go over how Donald Trump in 2016 had this populist message which resonated with the people of Wisconsin, and now in 2020 he completely doesn't 180 and doesn't recognize that was what got him elected. That was why Wisconsin turned red and voted for Trump.
Radar.
Well, there's a whole lot of cringe going on at the Democratic convention, from Billy Porter's performance, John Kasich's fork at the road, having Bill Clinton give a rousing, no, not really, speech on the same day that pictures were revealed showing him getting a massage from Jeffrey Epstein victims only 2 years after leaving the Oval Office. But something is beginning to dawn on me. It makes me very sad to report this all. All signs point to the GOP convention being even more cringe, or at very least the same, and it's a perfect reflection of the state of the Trump campaign today. Got a small taste of it Monday on the campaign trail when President Trump and the Trump campaign highly publicized a speech that he delivered in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, in which he branded Joe Biden a, quote, Trojan horse for socialism. Let's take a listen to that speech one more time, and let's digest what exactly he said.
It's just a Trojan horse for socialism. He's a Trojan horse. He has no clue, but the people around him are tough, and they're smart, but we disagree with them very, very strongly. They're mean, and they're angry, like her.
So let's think about that. Joe Biden is a Trojan horse for socialism is the message that they're going with in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, a state that voted Republican for the first time in nearly 30 years, explicitly because Trump didn't sound like a typical Republican that normally ran for office. The Trojan horse for socialism bit sounds a lot like something that Scott Walker or Paul Ryan would say, and you can ask both of them how it worked out whenever they tried to compete statewide for their own home state, Wisconsin's vote, either as governor or as vice presidential nominee. Just to give you an idea of how far off base Trump's message today is from what it was in 2016, I present to you a speech he gave exactly 4 years ago yesterday in the state of Wisconsin during the 2016 campaign. The speech was in Milwaukee. It represented Trump's attempt at wooing the black community, where he said, quote, 1 in 5 manufacturing jobs has disappeared in Milwaukee since we fully opened our markets to China, and many African-American neighborhoods have borne the brunt of this hit. Continuing, he said, the corrupt system is trying to stop me. I've been paying my own way. The voters in the Republican Party this year defied the donors, the consultants, the power brokers, and chose a nominee from outside our failed, corrupt, and broken system. The other party, the Democratic Party, nominated the personification of special interest corruption. The Democratic Party rigged the nomination to give it to Hillary Clinton, thus giving the soul of their party this year to special interests. A little bit of a different tune there, huh? How is it that that candidate, who won Wisconsin 4 years ago with that message, has strayed so far from it? Joe Biden isn't a Trojan horse for socialism. It's honestly worse. He's a Trojan horse for the status quo, for neoliberalism, for the system.
So
that
let's
destroyed
stop here. For those of you who are interested, this video is really great. I would highly recommend that you finish watching it on your own. But as you can see here, Donald Trump knows what it will take to win Wisconsin, but this time around he's got a different message that obviously isn't going to work. It's proven not to work. He knows this, but he's going with this message. Why? Well, because he doesn't want to be president. He doesn't want to win the election. So let's go over to how he is actively helping the Democrats in their election, for their election, right? So let's listen to what Crystal Ball has to say about the Donald Trump's ad campaign against Kamala Harris
as his running mate. Of course, we're all waiting. What is the Trump campaign going to say? Got our answer pretty quickly with an ad that was dropped literally minutes after. Let's take a listen.
Kamala Harris ran for president by rushing to the radical left, embracing Bernie's plan for socialized medicine, calling for trillions in new taxes, attacking Joe Biden for racist policies. Voters rejected Harris. They smartly spotted a phony. But not Joe Biden. He's not that smart. Biden calls himself a transition candidate. He is handing over the reins to Kamala while they jointly embrace the radical left. Slow Joe and phony Kamala. Perfect together. Wrong for America.
Oh, God, I have a lot of thoughts about this one. How do you blow this? Why is this so difficult? The worst part is, this was a well-telegraphed pick. They obviously had it pre-made, and they went with trillions of dollars. Also, this is why it's so stupid, which is that anybody who is familiar with the Democratic primary knows that none of that is true. She disavowed the Medicare for All plan, right? Yes. And then whenever it comes to the tax plan, I'm not sure. I'm sure they would probably say that about any Democrat. But what strikes me about this is it is completely just disconnected from how voters view Kamala Harris. Yeah. They view Kamala as a phony, as an establishment tool, as, Wall Street pick, which is all true, as we have covered here on the show today. And so I'm so embarrassed by something like this, the fact that it's even perpetuated on the right. And it goes to show that the Trump campaign, they have no idea what they won in the first place. And it connects to everything. Trump's response to the stimulus, the tax cuts, all these Larry Kudlow people who work for him. Steve Bannon would never let any ad like this ever play. So it's a total embarrassment. And if they continue to run on this stuff, good luck in November.
And the nickname is actually pretty good. Phony Kamala.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Like you said the word phony to describe her too. Like that actually fits.
Yes.
But then what they lead with is the same dumb leftist Sanders. Also, by the way, Bernie Sanders is one of the most popular politicians in the country, by the way. And oh my God, she might give us health care. Horror of horrors. But to your point, it's literally the opposite of what happened. Kamala co-sponsored Bernie's Medicare for All bill when she thought that seemed like the politically expedient thing to do. Then what happened? She got on the campaign trail. She went to raise money from the donors, and the donors were like, oh my God, Medicare for All. Oh, we can't have that. She comes out and it's like, I was always uncomfortable with Bernie's plan. She immediately flips her position. That ends up being a disaster because why? I mean, that part they're correct about. So they have part of it.
Yes.
The phony part that voters saw through the fact that she changed her slogan with the seasons as one of her advisors. So she never really knew why she was running, and no one else knew why she was running either. And it clearly was just for her own sort of status, her own aspirations of what she wanted to be in the world, not because she was driven by any particular values. That part, the donor ties, go in on that.
Right.
They put on a campaign statement, too, when she was picked that is equally confused. Let me just hone in on a couple of lines here. They say, clearly phony Kamala will abandon her own morals. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. As well as try to bury her record as a prosecutor in order to appease the anti-police extremists controlling the Democrat Party. Okay, so that messaging is she had a lock 'em up, which is true, approach when she was prosecutor. She wants to bury that to appease elements of the left. Okay. But then they go on to say that in her attempt at running for president, she gleefully embraced the left's radical manifesto, calling for trillions of dollars in new taxes, backing Bernie Sanders' government takeover of healthcare. So she's saying okay, she was too aggressive on criminal justice. She was too lock 'em up in one sentence. And then the next sentence, they're like, no, she's too leftist. She's the anti-police Bernie Sanders Marxist person. It's just confused and all over the place when the answer is really clear. I mean, she and Joe Biden are handmaidens of the donor class. They're handmaidens of the status quo. That's it. That's the message. It's the same playbook you ran against Hillary Clinton. You can roll out the same playbook. Their ties to the donor class, their desire to perpetuate the status quo. Donald Trump, even as incumbent, can still somewhat run as the change candidate, whereas they're the continue the status quo ticket. It's really not that hard to figure out.
No, it's not hard whatsoever, and yet I have not one word from it. The only correct message I heard so far is from Josh Hawley. This is where he tweeted, "Of course, Wall Street is delighted with Biden-Harris. Right back to China appeasement, unfettered globalism, ruinous trade policies have transferred billions from working people to Wall Street. That's the Biden-Harris agenda." I think Trump could win if he ran on that, even with his own governing record, if he hit them relentlessly on a corrupt past in San Francisco. Go look at how Kamala Harris exactly ascended to office in the first place. All of that is completely fair game. And
so let's stop here. I don't think there's much there anymore. Okay, so let's take a look at... So I'm just not going to repeat what Crystal Ball has said. She made a very good case about what Trump is doing wrong. Totally, it's like, okay, right now Medicare for All is a super popular position, right? A policy, right? And so Kamala Harris, who already backpedaled and from it, is having the Democratic candidates, right? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both have been anti, Medicare for All, right? Kamala Harris initially supported it and then backpedaled, but Joe Biden just absolutely has said, "Oh no, we're not going to. If I become president, and by some miracle, Medicare for All passes Congress and lands on my desk, I am going to veto it." So he has said that clearly, and he has said that multiple times, right, throughout his campaign. So he's absolutely against it. And the only thing he ever promised, right, was when Sanders bent the knee, basically bowed out of the race, Joe Biden promised a year, expanding Medicare for 1 year. So right now in the United States, if you're 65 years old, you can get Medicare. So he's saying, "Oh, we'll lower it 1 year. So if you're 64, you can get it." Well, first of all, he's saying he's going to push for that, but that's just lip service. He might not even push for it. And even if he did, if he didn't push for it very hard, chances are it wouldn't even go through, right? So, and secondly, 4 years ago when Hillary Clinton was running for president, she promised 55. She went 10 years. Okay, we'll push Medicare. We'll give Medicare for all for people age 55 and above. Compare that with Joe Biden's 1 year, 4 years after the fact, during a global pandemic, which is hitting the United States particularly hard right now. So obviously, right? So obviously, this does not jive with, I would say most of the population, and certainly not with the progressives. So what the Trump did was to project onto Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that, hey, they are these leftists. They are pushing for, these leftist ideas like Medicare for All. They're going to push for it, which is basically helping them, right? Because if people actually believe those ads, well, if you believe those ads, wouldn't you want to vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden rather than be turned off by those so-called attack ads? So So this is why I'm saying that Donald Trump is actually actively helping the Biden-Harris campaign. So let me see. And here's another piece that I just want to add. So let's take a listen.
Our friends on Wall Street are ecstatic this morning. That is according to a new report by Brian Schwartz over at CNBC.
You can fast forward through this if you want.
Great quotes about how jubilant they're feeling.
So you can fast forward through this if you want, because mostly I'm just trying to make the connection between Steve Mnuchin and Kamala Harris. But I think Crystal Ball says it much better than I can, so I'm going to let her speak.
This morning and yesterday evening, after learning that Kamala was in fact the pick to be Biden's VP running mate. So here are a couple of the quotes. We've got one person who said that she's great and the perfect partner. Yep. Charles Myers, founder of Signum, told me clients wanted to know if Biden was going to stay in the center. His pick of Harris reinforces that. Well, that's true. Another one just texted in all caps, great choice. So look, the donors got their person. Yeah. I mean, that's really what happened here. And we had been reading reports for a long time that Biden was consulting with donors over who they wanted, right? Kamala was always mentioned, since they couldn't have Pete. Kamala was a close second place in terms of who they ultimately wanted. Why? Because they feel very comfortable that she's not going to do anything to harm their interests. They've seen her record in California, which is one of letting Steve Mnuchin off the hook for mortgage foreclosure fraud, even though her own office recommended going after him, of a very cozy relationship with big tech at a time when, you know, there were a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening. Like, she was the top law enforcement official who was in place to check some of that growth. Instead, she said, essentially, this is a quote from Dr. Seuss the Lorax, but business is business and business must grow. Right. That was her whole approach to big tech. It has continued to be, in spite of the performative, you know, let's ban Donald Trump from Twitter. That's as far as sort of structural change in big tech as she's gone. So yeah, they feel great about it.
Oh, they feel fantastic. I said this earlier in the show, which is that the Wall Streeters were the ones who basically picked the VP. They were the ones who were like, no, we're not comfortable with Warren. And then Biden, the way he tested out his VP candidates was not leadership or anything like that. He made them headline fundraisers. See which one raised the most money. That's Kamala.
That is the Democratic Party right there.
There you go.
It really is.
And like you said, her home state constituents, they're so happy right now. Let's throw this up. Celebrity reactions. So
let's cut right here. So let's take a look at what was said. So Kamala Harris led off Steve Mnuchin, who committed foreclosure fraud, forcing families, thousands of families, out of their homes. Thousands of people lost their homes and possibly became bankrupt or in debt or whatever because of Steve Mnuchin. And even though Kamala Harris's team said, hey, we can prosecute this, you know, this is something we should do, we can absolutely, this case is, you know, we can get this done, and she said, no, we're not going to prosecute Steve Mnuchin. And Steve Mnuchin, by the way, if just in case you don't know who he is, I imagine you know, because he's a Secretary of the Treasury, you know, appointed by Donald Trump. He was responsible for this bailout bill in March, right? That was actually passed in April. I think it was passed in April, or was it late March? Late March, April. Anyways, so if you remember, this bailout bill contained $500 billion bailout for corporations, which they are able to finagle into something like $4 trillion of money for corporations. I don't know the exact details of it, but that's and in the meantime, they have this $1,200 check for every American, basically, and then or every American who pays taxes, and then or who and then they have this what is it, the $600 unemployment. Well, the thing is that ran out, right? That's run out. It's completely run out. And Congress is still fighting over it. And in truth, this was a terrible bill because the bill gave the donors, the wealthy major corporations, and what they wanted. They got their bailout, their $4 trillion, while the rest of the United States, rest of Americans are, just did not get what they need, and they're now suffering. They're getting foreclosed on. They're getting evicted. They've lost their jobs. 40 million lost their jobs or something like that. I don't know how many right now. It's like something like 30 to 40 million currently, as far as I know, are unemployed. Obviously, if they don't, they're unemployed, they're probably not getting insurance, because a lot of health insurance is tied to jobs. So Steve Mnuchin, you should probably have seen his face. So this is the guy, along with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, ironed out that last bill, which was a disaster and was too little for Americans. And it's only in the United States that we're faced with this great recession with insane amount of unemployment. In like European countries like Germany or the UK, Netherlands, they don't have this kind of problems, because guess what, they have this bill, they have where they pass a bill where they have this paycheck, right? The government is gonna pay the paycheck. I know at least for sure that Denmark and Netherlands are paying something like 75-80% of the paycheck for everybody who was employed before the pandemic, and all they have to do is stay at home, and this paycheck would renew itself basically until such time as the government the pandemic is over, and the pandemic can open the government. So there's not this massive unemployment, and people are probably not going going into debt, or maybe going bankrupt because of health issues, or because they got the coronavirus over in Netherlands. But here in the United States, they're probably going. There are probably people, and I'm kind of curious how many. If there's a statistics out there that tells you how many people have become bankrupt as a result of contracting the coronavirus. I'm kind of curious about that. But over in Europe, if they get sick, they got universal health care, so they're not gonna go bankrupt any which way. So it's only in the United States that things like that can happen. And if you're saying, oh, that's way over in Europe, but how about Canada? Canada managed to do the same thing. They're not facing the kind of economic disaster that we are, and so Steve Mnuchin had a lot to do with that. And this guy, you can just go to the Wikipedia page and look him up. Read up the foreclosure part, and get this, he donated to Kamala Harris. in 2016. I know it's a small amount, but he did donate to her. And so now we have a connection here. So we got Steve Mnuchin, who is obviously friendly with Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris, who, as far as I can tell, is friendly to Steve Mnuchin, at least friendly enough so that she spared him from being sued by the state of California when she was the state AG. So they have a connection here. Meanwhile, Trump is doing everything to sabotage himself and help Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So I'm kind of seeing a pattern here. Maybe I'm just you'll see this as a conspiracy theory, and it is definitely. I don't have definitive proof that Donald Trump is actively sabotaging his own campaign. Maybe he's stupid, which it's really hard to believe that he's that stupid, because he's already done it before. He's already ran this campaign in 2016 and won with it, and now he's the incumbent, and he's in a slightly stronger position. Well, not with the economy and the way he handled coronavirus, but still, nevertheless. So that's my theory. Donald Trump is actively sabotaging his own campaign and helping Biden and Harris get elected. So please let me know in the comments what you think of that. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.